You'll find a Mets fan. Let's go. This is a Mets year. For all your Mets here, let's go. Bring it home. Bring it home. Bring it home
exciting, thrilling, awesome. Let's take a look.
What's up, Met fans? Welcome back to Talking Mets here, Rob. Mets pregame live here, 6:30 on April 27th, and our New York Mets are looking as lifeless as they probably did early in the season against the Milwaukee Brewers, coming back home from a West Coast trip. Everybody very excited about the 7-3 road trip and on their way home against a bad Washington Nationals team, but that has changed within 2 days. A 4-game losing streak, 2 on the last 2 games on the West Coast, and 2 at home against the mighty, apparently, Washington Nationals. Josiah Gray shut down the Mets, as well as Mackenzie Gore, 2 guys that are young. Even though Josiah Gray been around the block a couple of years already, he is pitching better this year, but there is no excuse for the New York Mets and the lifeless offense that this lineup has showed over the last 2 days. I'm not even going to count the 2 West Coast games again, the 2 last games on the Giants, because they scored runs. You know, if the pitching held up, we could have won those games, but there is no excuse to score, 1 run in 2 games, losing 5-0 the first game and 4-1 in the second game. Look, I have no problem. You're going to lose ball games. That's just a fact, right? That's baseball. That's how baseball goes. You're going to lose games. I'm not even bitching and moaning about the lineup as much as I'm concerned, because this team did not have an error in 23 of the first 23 games of the season. These last 2 games, they look like the bad news Bears on the road. And that is a huge problem. The defense worries me because that's one of the things that you wouldn't have to think about worrying about. Throwing the ball all over the field, not hitting cutoff mans, not making simple plays, not catching pop-ups, not turning double plays, not getting the grounders, not fielding properly, not positioning well, moving before the ball is even hit. So many things over the last 2 games that could have ended innings where the pitcher had to throw 10 to 15 more pitches, could have stayed an extra inning or more into the game and saved the bullpen a little bit. So many things is a trickle-down effect over the last 2 games that is a problem. And we can talk about the lineup all we want. And they need to score runs, absolutely. But the defense didn't help their pitching staff enough because there was, I could count 3 or 4 times in each of the 2 games where the pitcher could have got out of the inning earlier, saving 10, 15, 20 pitches if the defense would have done their job. And that's something that always annoys me more than anything else. The lineup is going to struggle every now and then. The lineup is going to go cold every now and then. It's baseball. That is something that is every team, every fan base is going to complain about their lineup at some point being extremely cold. That's not my concern because the lineup will eventually get hot again, right? It could start tonight, could start tomorrow. Who knows? What I don't like is the defense because the defense is something that you come to the ballpark every day, you do your job, you make the routine plays. But let's be honest, these plays weren't hard that they made errors on. The routine plays, the double plays, the positioning, just catching the ball, hitting the cutoff man. Those are the things that are routine in baseball. Those are the things that should not happen. And I'm not saying they only happen once per game. These 3 or 4 times in each of these last 2 games that the defense has been absolutely putrid and gave their pitchers almost a chance to get out of an inning. And now, you see it all the time. The mental aspect of hitting a ground ball to second base that should be a game in and double play or game in and double play, and it turns into a couple of runs because mentally the pitcher checked out. And I'm not saying the pitcher shouldn't have got out of it, but let's be honest, right? Lineups go cold. Routine defensive plays is either laziness or the lack of focus. Both of those are a problem. That's what I'm more concerned about. Lineups go cold. All right. I don't care who you're facing. If you're struggling, it doesn't matter who you're facing. And you face 2 young guys, especially Mackenzie Gore. The Mets are already bad against left-handed pitching. But Mackenzie Gore was striking out the ballpark yesterday. And Josiah Gray this is his best season since he's been up in the big leagues. So not saying that the Mets shouldn't hit him around, but when you're cold and you're facing a hungry young 2 pitchers right there who got really good stuff, you have problems. And over the years, Josiah Gray is a completely different pitcher than what he was last year or the year before that when the Mets were beating him up. Totally different pitcher. Develop a new cutter, develop a new windup, and all that change it to a better pitcher. No excuse for the Mets. But again, lineups go cold. All right, no matter who you have in the lineup, lineups go cold. That can change today. That can change tomorrow. It's always a swing of hot and cold, lukewarm, very warm. It doesn't really matter. That is the issue. It's a slump. And we talked about this team last year. Even when they were winning every series from April to June last year, the lineups were going cold at times, right? Where, again, when you don't have a home run, when you don't have multiple guys that are threatening hitting home runs, you rely on 2 or 3, 4 hits an inning to get runs scored. When 3 or 4 of those guys go cold, it's very hard to score runs. We've seen this last year, even when the Mets are winning through April and June until they lost their first series. It's not about when they go cold because they were still winning ball games because while they were pitching well last year and this year, they're not pitching very well. And you can make that for a lot of reasons. You could say of the injuries, which, to have the fact that the Mets are over 500 with a pitching staff where Senga is the only guy in the rotation that was supposed to start the season in the rotation. He's the only one left until Scherzer and Verlander come back. That's something that we don't talk about it enough and nobody wants to bring up. They just want to kill the lineup, which the lineup who was scoring 5 runs per game is exactly what they were doing last year. So is it all about the runs, or is it about, how about this? How about letting our pitchers not get behind every single game? Every single game, it seems like the Mets are behind. All right. I don't care how good your offense is. Eventually, you're not going to come back. And this lineup is not made to come back from 3, 4, 5 runs, even though they've done it a couple of times last year and sometimes this year. It is impossible. And Ken, I don't give a shit about Walker, okay? The problem is the fact that you have an injured pitching staff. If this pitching staff was healthy, it'd probably be 10 times better than what we had last year. It's just a fact. Because everybody wanted Chris Bassett back. Everybody wanted Walker back. Walker's still good with the Phillies. Not saying he's not. But, I mean, are the Phillies in first place? Are the Phillies having a good record? No. So he's not giving them the best chance to win either. So it really does not matter. So you can curse, bitch, and moan about whatever you want to talk about with Walker, the same way you talk about everybody else that is talking about. Chris Bassett can't even get out of a 10 ERA. That is the issue that everybody just wants to talk about, but they're not focusing on the issues that the Mets are having, right? The problem with the Mets is not the lineup, all right? Can the pitching staff, can the pitching rotation actually not bring this team behind? It seems like every game by the 4th inning, the Mets are behind. You can't win like that. I'm sorry. I don't care how good your offense is. You can't always come back in ball games. All right. I don't care if your lineup is murderer's row. I don't care if you're one-dimensional and just hitting home runs, or you have the Mets lineup. And that is the issue. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Bassett 5+. You got the Walker ERA, which is what, 3.5, a little over that, which is basically where he's been, right? But it's not like the Phillies are winning ball games left and right every single time. They're still under 500, right? So let's not act like, he's a big part of that rotation, because he's really not. And we keep on talking to the point that we keep on talking about the lineup, but can the rotation help the lineup? Because when the Mets are scoring 4 or 5 runs per game on the West Coast, nobody was saying a word. Yet the people that complain about the lineup don't understand baseball. I'm sorry. And that might piss people off, but let's show the facts of facts. I see on Twitter, on Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. Oh, this lineup is terrible. I knew we should have got Correa. Oh, we should have got a bigger bat. This team is scoring 5 runs per ball game. That is enough to win ball games. But when your pitching staff gives up 5 runs per ball game, it's kind of hard to win like that. That's it. That is the whole point. And until people get that through their heads, they're never going to understand what the hell is going on with baseball. That is the issue that I just don't understand with people. And again, I understand people get pissed off. And the Braves lost today, so I guess the Braves should stop playing baseball, because if you go by the way Met fans talk, the Braves just lost to the Marlins. It should be the end of the world. Well, Joel, that's fine, but Pete Alonso and Lindor didn't hit last year at points, and the Mets are still winning. Why was that? Because they were pitching well. When nobody wants to bring up the rotation has one guy in the rotation that was supposed to start the season in the rotation, and that's Senga. No Quintana, no Carrasco, no Scherzer, no Verlander. That is 4 out of your 5. You're already using all your pitching depth in the minors. Like, why don't people want to talk about that? And Joel, it's not about being a homer. It's about common sense. People want to bring up the lineup. The lineup is still scoring 5 runs per ball game. Just because they didn't score more than 2 runs in the last 2 ball games doesn't mean the lineup is all of a sudden terrible. If you look at the total numbers, I'm not talking about batting average, because if you look at some teams, right, the Padres, who are a 500 team right now, their average is just as worse as the Mets. But everybody thinks, oh, well, look at the Padres. They're great, right? The Mets have more runs scored per game in total than teams that have better records than them. How does that make sense, right? That's the whole point. The point of the matter is, don't just look at the lineup and say, that's the reason. You can't just look at the lineup and say, that is the reason. You have a rotation that is pitching to a 5 ERA. That's the reason. All right? You're scoring 5 runs per ball game, and you're losing because you're giving up 4 or 5 runs per game. That's the problem. When you have a team ERA, specifically the rotation, it's over a 5 ERA now, that is causing your team to be behind the 8 ball every single time. You're not going to win ball games like that every single time. It's just not going to happen. It has nothing to do with pessimism. You want to criticize the wrong thing and then get mad that somebody's saying something different, and then that's the problem, right? We're not talking about the rotation, but yet when the lineup is scoring runs every single game on the West Coast trip, I didn't hear one word about the lineup. Where was everybody with the lineup now? All of a sudden, it's a good lineup. It's the same freaking people that I'm looking at. You know what it was? The pitchers pitched a little bit better in that West Coast series. That's it. That is the difference. The West Coast trip, you know what the ERA for the starters were in total? Just under 4. You know what the Mets runs per game were? 5.4. You're going to win ball games that way. But when you're even on your ERA with starters and you're even on the runs per game, you're probably going to lose. When your starters ERA is a full run and a half worse than your lineup is scoring. And it's around the same thing. So you have a little margin of error on pitching side and the offensive side. Anyway, it weighs down and goes the other way. You're either going to win the game by a little bit of runs or you're going to lose the game about a little bit of runs. That's the thing. Well, Joel, I agree with you. Now, Max didn't cheat. Max just used too much of something, right? An MLB official told him to use alcohol to clean off the pine tar. I mean, it's not the pine tar, excuse me, the rosin. So now, can you blame Scherzer for that? Yeah, he should have been smarter than that and say, but when he said he did everything that the umpires and the official told him to wash his hands with. Again, apparently MLB baseball didn't know that alcohol and rosin gets it more sticky. So that is the problem. Now, he should be smarter than that, and he should know better. I'm sorry, if you've been pitching for all your life, you have an idea of what washes off. And soap and water does not wash off rosin, okay? Trust me, I know. All right? You play baseball, you know. All right? Trust me, it doesn't wash it off. It takes a while to wash it off. And he only had about, 3 minutes, not even, to wash it off. That's why they used alcohol. But alcohol with the chemicals in it made it even more stickier. So that is the other issue. Again, look, he probably won't even get in trouble for that stuff again, right? That's just a fact. But the fact of the matter is, nobody wants to talk about the rotation that is missing 4 out of 5 guys, yet the Mets are still 3 games over 500, and it's not like they're buried in the division. The shaky pen is not the issue, Jesus. It's not at all. It is the rotation, all right? I'm sorry, the overused bullpen is not the problem. They actually been pretty good, but when you got to use these guys 4 or 5 days out of 7, they're not going to be as effective as they are if you use them 3 days a week or 4 days a week. The problem is the fact that when your rotation is giving up 5 runs per ball game, and yeah, but Joel, again, when you don't have an independent arbiter and MLB officials are the one going into that arbitration hearing, you're not going to win it. When MLB says you're suspended, and then there's an MLB official who works for MLB, is the jury and the executioner, you're not going to win. All right, it's basically not. It doesn't make sense. These suspensions are Major League Baseball sanctioned. So if you get suspended, and by MLB and MLB officials are in that arbiter room, what are they going to do? Go against their employer? No, this isn't a jury that is listening to a prosecution and a defense. All right, you're listening to a defense by an already skewed arbiter, which is MLB officials who work for MLB. That's the problem. Paul, you don't have to have a biochemistry degree. Take rosin. If you played baseball, you know. All right, you take rosin, right? We used to use green alcohol. I don't know if you guys know. If you're a bowler, I used to use green alcohol on my ball to rub, to wash my ball with, before I started bowling, right? Green alcohol is a little bit different because of the scent. It has like a mint smell, right? Green alcohol is extremely dry. It's even drier than regular alcohol. It's not much different, but it's a little different, right? After you bowl, you get a lot of oil on your hands. I used to wash my hands because when you use soap and water, you still get that cakey feeling on your hands. Not really sticky, but you get that cakey feeling, right? Which doesn't feel nice on your hands. But when you're a pitcher who the umpire says, wash your hands within a minute or two and come back out. I'm sorry. And the MLB official says to use alcohol to wash your hands, which washes away the rosin, the top part of the rosin on your hands. You're still going to have some sticky stuff on your hands, and the alcohol with the chemicals is going to make it harder. That's the problem. That's what I don't understand. Like, you blame a player who everything the umpire told him to do, he did, and the MLB official told him, watched him wash his hands. If it was so much of a problem of him washing his hands with alcohol, what was the MLB official doing? Isn't it his job to say, hey, you can't use that? Use soap and water and go back on the mound. No, because they know soap and water doesn't work and alcohol doesn't wash it off. It washes off the top layer that you have on your hands, but the stickiness is still on your hands. And the alcohol with the chemicals make it stickier, right? I use alcohol on a bowling ball because it dries up the bowling ball and it picks up the oil and it runs through the oil on the lanes, all right? It's sticky. Alcohol dries and it gets sticky. If you don't think it's sticky, put alcohol on your hands, rub it in, dry it off, because he had to dry off his hands. You're going to feel, not because you're not going to use rosin, you're going to feel a dryness. And that is the thing. I think, look, there's situations involved. Again, Scherzer should have been more careful, 100%. But it's not like he didn't do what the umpire said. That's why throwing him out and getting ejected and suspended him made no sense. He didn't get suspended because of illegal substance. He used legal substance that they said that he wasn't supposed to use alcohol, but the MLB official was there watching him washing his hands. It makes no sense. But at the end of the day, he was suspended. Unfortunately, that sucks for us. And again, when you have an arbiter that is an MLB official that's going to be in the room whose employer is MLB, it's kind of hard to be not biased when your employer is MLB. Well, Frank, you could say it's bad for a slump, but look, the Braves just lost a bad game against the Marlins today. And they're coming into Citi Field losing a bad game. And JL just said their bullpen is terrible. You see what I'm saying? So, again, there's no perfect team here. Everybody wants to give the Braves the mantle and the trophies already when they're not having, the easiest time either. Last time I checked, they didn't run away with the division. Well, JL, exactly. That's the same thing with the Mets problem, too. Even though the Mets bullpen has been better than the Braves starters haven't gone far. Strider has been amazing, but the Braves starter hasn't gone far. The Mets starter, Luke Casey's the only one that went past the sixth inning. That's a problem. That's a 100% problem. And again, we want to focus on the lineup because that is the easy thing to go after. But if you're not going to go after other things, then you just don't understand that lineups go cold, all right? When your starter's ERA is nearly the same as your runs per game offensively, you got a little margin of error. It's either going to tip in your favor or tip against you. That's the problem right now, right? This offense was scoring just the same amount of runs as they did last year. What was the factor that made them not lose a series, until June? The pitching was better. The rotation was somewhat more healthier than it is now. I'm sorry, but McGill and Peterson shouldn't be in this rotation right now. Maybe Joey, maybe one of those guys. But right now, if everybody was healthy, Carrasco would be out. Joey Lucchesi would be the starter in Carrasco's spot. If Verlander and Scherzer and Quintana were all healthy, you wouldn't have these guys here. You would still have these guys in depth pieces. That's the problem that nobody's talking about. I'm sorry. We all like Peterson, but Peterson can't get out of his own way. McGill had his first bad start of the year, and yet we're not killing the rotation. Why are we not allowed to kill the depth pieces? Well, they're getting opportunities here, and they're not doing it. And that's the thing, that the up and down of lineups happen all the time. Like, I just don't understand why people don't understand that fact. Oh, the lineup is terrible. Where is that people during the West Coast trip when the Mets were averaging 5.5 runs per ball game on the West Coast trip? They were nowhere to be found. And I don't care who it's against, because then you got to take away the Braves wins against bad teams. You got to take away the Phillies games wins against bad teams, and you got to take away everybody's wins against bad teams. That's not the point. Because if you take everybody's bad wins away and their runs away from those against those bad teams, everybody will be hitting 3 runs per ball game. So that is the issue that I don't understand why people are going crazy with the lineup, because this lineup has been scoring 5 runs per ball game. But when your pitching staff, mostly your starters, has nearly at the moment now is over a 5 ERA, there's your problem. You got a little bit of error to tip in your favor or against you. And right now, it's against us. And that's the whole point. And I don't understand why people are going crazy with that when they're only talking about the lineup, but yet the pitching staff. And I don't care if you get that's why I hate when people talk about the prospects and anything else that goes along with the prospects. You get an opportunity, do your damn job. You are a baseball player. If you can't handle it here, you're not a major leaguer. All right, that's it. And that goes for the pitching here, right? It's not like McGill never pitched in the majors before. Peterson's been here for 3 years now, up and down, but he's been here. They have opportunities. These guys weren't coming around. They knew Verlander was going to be out a month. They knew Scherzer, he had that little issue when he had to skip a start or push back a start, and now he's suspended. You get an extra week of those type of pitchers. You have opportunities to keep yourself in the big leagues. You don't do your job, that's on you. That's nobody else's problem. Yeah, and exactly. Like I said, the replacements that the Mets had, even Peterson last year was better than he is this year. McGill, before he got hurt, was better than he is this year. Trevor Williams was great last year for us. Their replacements were good when they were needed. But when you're not good now, Peterson and McGill, they're the same 2 pitchers, right? They're not different people. If they were different people that the Mets brought in for depth, and it wasn't McGill or Peterson, I could say, all right, they made a bad job in getting their depth pieces. But those were the same 2 guys that everybody was loving last year when they were replacing starters in the rotation. So you can't have it both ways. And that's what I don't understand. And the problem that everybody wants to talk about is that when your bullpen is basically keeping this team afloat right now, and they're being overused. I mean, let's be honest. Look around baseball. Every bullpen has been overused. Like, that's a problem around baseball. But that's a baseball problem. When you baby the pitchers and you're so scared to throw them past 5 innings and 100 pitches, you're going to have bullpens that are going to be used every single day, and you're always going to go to your 4th, 5th, 6th best guy almost on an everyday basis. That's a problem. That's a baseball problem. That's not just a Mets problem. And that's the problem that I have with baseball. They want to give pitchers their $20, $30, $40 million, but yet they don't want them to go past the 5th or 6th inning and throw over 100 pitchers. And then they wonder why they lose ball games late in games, because they're using their 4th, 5th, or 6th best bullpen arms every single day. Well, how is that a recipe for success? That's what I don't understand. You pay people more to pitch less. I just don't get it. All right, that's just my old school mentality, but it's a baseball issue when it comes to that. So, when you have one pitcher in 26 games this year that has been into the 7th inning, and that's Joey Lucchesi, who's pitching tonight, that's a problem. Again, when you don't have Scherzer, when you don't have Verlander, and you don't have Quintana, who was actually a workhorse throughout his career, who would give you innings, even though he might give up 3-4 runs per ball game, he will give you length. And that's what the Mets don't have. Peterson doesn't give you length. McGill doesn't give you length. Senga is still working through his kinks. He can't give you length. I mean, that's where you are right now. And that's hurting this team as well. But we're so focused on the lineup when this team just came off of scoring 5 runs per ball game on the West Coast. And in the season, just under 5 runs per ball game so far, we're looking at the wrong thing. Just because you lost the last 2 games and did not score more than 2 runs in this series so far doesn't mean the lineup is the only problem. Yeah, it's the problem in its first 2 games. But the starters have been a problem all year. And that is the issue. If you're not going to bring up the starters, the same guys in McGill and Peterson who were a linchpin to the starting rotation last year when they replaced guys that were injured, they're not doing their job this year. How about blaming them? And stop blaming the lineup, who is still a team that scores 5 runs per ball game. You should be winning ball games if you're scoring 5 runs per ball game on average. Because that's where the Mets are right now, just under that. But once again, when your pitching staff, predominantly your rotation, is near 5 runs, an ERA of 5, now your runs per game and your ERA is leveled now. So again, one thing goes the other way in your favor, you probably win. If it goes the other way, you're probably losing. At the moment, it's going the other way. That is the problem. Hey, Brave fans, listen. Let's not. Again, we're all flawed right now, buddy. Everybody, JL just complained about the bullpen. Bravos just came. I get it, guys. Trust me. And you know what? Look, the Brave fans are complaining. Yet they win a division every year. They just won 101 ball games last year as the Mets. And we're complaining now, and they're complaining too. You know why? Because there's issues in their team as well. Just because, we only see highlights of games. We don't watch the Braves on an everyday basis as a Mets fan, as we do the Mets. So we're going to know the flaws, and we're going to complain about what we see every single day. The Braves have problems too, along with the Phillies and probably every other team in baseball. There's not a perfect team. And that is the issue that I don't understand with people. And I get it. It sucks. But lineups go cold, right? Bullpens go cold. Rotation goes cold. But at some point, stop blaming the one thing that's actually been good this season. And the lineup has been. Now, you want to talk about average? All of a sudden, everybody wants to talk about the Mets average when nobody cares about Mets averages or about averages anymore, right? The average is not good, but runs per games is good, and they're still in the top of the league in runs scored. So what matters? Now you want to complain about average, or you're going to complain about the runs that are actually scored? Well, Paul, that's the whole point. But the problem is people are tilting the half empty only to the lineup, and that's not right. Because it's wrong. All right, guys, so let me give you the lineup before I head out. And once again, guys, I will be doing an NFL draft round 1 watch party at 7:45 throughout the draft. So if you want to, I'll be watching the Met game as well while I have the NFL draft on. So if you want to tune into that, you can, and then we can talk Mets baseball as well on there if you want. But I'm doing the NFL draft watch party at 7:45. So once this stream is over, it will take you to that draft thing. So make sure you hit on that like button over there and enjoy a little bit of the NFL draft as well. So let's go to the pitching. The pitching matchup is Trevor Williams today. Oh, excuse me. I think that changed. Yes, Trevor Williams today for the Nationals and Joey Lucchesi for the Mets. The lineups for today, or at least for the Mets today, is this. Let's get it. All right, here we go. Oh, wrong one. Sorry. Give me the Nationals. Don't get okay. Brandon Nimmo leading off, playing center field. Starlin Marte playing right field, batting second. Francisco Lindor playing shortstop, batting third. Pete Alonso playing first base, batting cleanup. Jeff McNeil batting fifth, playing second base. Daniel Vogelbach batting sixth, playing DH. Seventh, Canna, left field. 8, Beatty, third base. Francisco Alvarez catching, batting ninth. That is your lineup for the Mets. And let's be honest, guys, we keep on talking about Alonso and Lindor, but this lineup is hurting more because Starlin Marte is not hitting. Starlin Marte, as you've seen in September, when he's not doing well or missing in this lineup struggles. Marte is struggling. No reason, and that is a big reason why the Mets aren't scoring runs either. Marte is the biggest spark plug in this lineup. You could talk about Nimmo, who's very important as a leadoff hitter, and he's still doing his job, even though he's striking out a little bit more, but he's in a slump as well, just like everybody else. But Lindor and Alonso, they struggled, but when Marte was hot, this team is still winning ball games. So Marte's got to get going for this team to get going. So that is your lineup for the Mets. I will be tuning in to the NFL draft at 7:45. So if you want to tune into that, talk a little NFL, and obviously people from this channel are probably going to head out to the draft chat as well and talk about Mets baseball, but we'll be talking about the NFL draft in there as well. So once again, guys, everybody have a great night. Let's see if the Mets can salvage this series and not get swept by the lowly Washington Nationals. Joey Lucchesi, best start of a Mets pitcher this year. Let's see if he can replicate that and give this team actually zeros on the board pitching-wise, and that would be nice. Mets are going to be facing their old friend Trevor Williams. He has a 3.38 ERA, really good this year for the Nationals. So we'll see if we can hit him around a little bit and get back on the win column. Mets are 14-11, and the Braves are coming up. With that said, guys, everybody have a great night. See you in the NFL Draft Watch Party in a little bit. Let's go, Mets. See you tomorrow, guys. Come on, Mets. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Have a good night, guys.